Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki O Prema. O glorious to the assembled devotees. O glorious to the assembled devotees. O glorious to the assembled devotees. O glorious to Sri Guru and Sri. Darayanam namaskritya dam chivim uttamam devim saraswati vyasam chatojayam kuntirayam. Om namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, Chapter entitled The Glories of Devotional Service, text number 9. Ya Ajo Bhagavan Punsam. Ya Ajo Bhagavan Punsam. Yishrado Vai Bhavan Kila. Yishrado Vai Bhavan Kila. Lokasya Tamasandasya. Lokasya Tamasandasya. Chakshu Surya Evodita. Chakshu Surya Evodita. Yajo Bhagavan Pumsam. Yajo Bhagavan Pumsam. Ishrado Vai Bhavan Kila. Ishrado Vai Bhavan Kila. Lokasya Tamasandasya. Lokasya Tamasandasya. Chakshu Surya Evodita. Chakshu Surya Evodita. Yajo Bhagavan Pumsam. Yajo Bhagavan Pumsam. Ishrado Vai Bhavan Kila. Ishrado Vai Bhavan Kila. Lokasya tamasandasya Chakshu surya ivodita
Yo adeo Bhagavan Pumsam Ishara Bhai Bhavan Kila Lokasaya Tamasandhasya Chakshu Surya Ibodita
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīmad Prabhupada. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin and Supreme Lord of all living entities. You have arisen to disseminate the rays of the sun in order to dissipate the darkness of the ignorance of the universe. Translation responsibly. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
The origin and Supreme Lord.
The origin and Supreme Lord.
Of all living entities.
Of all living entities.
You have arisen to disseminate the rays of You have arisen to disseminate the rays of the sun.
You have arisen to disseminate the rays of the sun.
In order to dissipate the darkness of the ignorance of the universe.
In order to dissipate the darkness of the ignorance of the universe.
Purport. Kapila Muni is accepted as an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Here the word Aja means the origin of all living entities, and Pumsam, Ishvara, means the Lord Ishvara of the living entities. Ishvara, Parama, Krishna. Kapila Muni is the direct expansion of Krishna, who is the son of spiritual knowledge. As the sun dissipates the darkness of the universe, so when the light of the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes down, it at once dissipates the darkness of Maya. We have our eyes, but without the light of the sun, our eyes are of no value. Similarly, when the light of the Supreme Lord, or without the divine grace of the spiritual master, one cannot see things as they are. Gyan Tibadandasya Ginanjana Shalakaya Chakshurim Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sabitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapantikam Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Krishna Evacha Titanam Avanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare. So now we're beginning the teachings of Lord Kapila. So Kapila is famous for the philosophy of Sankhya. Literally, the philosophy of Sankhya means analysis, or you could say it means counting. So when we discuss Sankhya philosophy, Sankhya Gyan, then we're talking about analyzing the material energy. Because the Bhagavatam, in the opening verses, it describes that in order to become free from the material energy, you have to differentiate between matter and spirit. What is the difference between the material energy and the spiritual energy? You cannot become free from the spiritual energy until you understand that you are not the material energy. So you need to analyze. So therefore, in Sankhya, in Lord Kapila's teachings, he analyzes 26 material elements by the process of neti. Neti means not this, not this. I am not this, I am not that. So what are the first five? The first five are the five Mahabhutas, which means earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So we are not those. You're not earth, you're not fire, you're not water, you're not air, you're not ether. Right. And then he says, next to that are the five sense objects. So we have touch, we have sound, we have things that we can see, things that we can hear, things that we can taste. So these five sense objects. So we're not these things. You're not the sense objects. Right. And then there are the five knowledge acquiring senses and the five working senses. So you are not these things either. Right. You are not the eyes, you're not the tongue, you're not the ears, you're not the sense of touch, you're not the nose, you're not the sense of speech, you're not the legs, you're not the arms, you're not the belly, you're not the genitals, and you're not the rectum, the anus. You're not these things. So these are 20. So he's analysed. This is what you are not. You can't understand what you are until you understand what you are not. So therefore he gives the process of Sankhya. Sankhya means analysis. So that you understand the difference between matter and spirit. The Bhagavatam begins, the opening verses say, you have to differentiate between matter and spirit. So then, on top of those 20, then you have mind, intelligence, and ego. So you're not the mind. You're not your intelligence. And you're not your ego. So these things you are not. And then, he says you're also not chitta. Chitta means consciousness. Consciousness means material consciousness, not spiritual consciousness, material consciousness. So you are not chitta. And then there are two further elements. One is the soul, and the other one is paramatma. So you are not paramatma. That needs to be understood also. You can't understand who you are until you understand who you are not. So if you are thinking you are paramatma, then you cannot understand your constitutional position. And then finally, you have to understand who you are. Okay, you're not all these other 25 things. So then what are you? You're the soul. Jivara Srupa Hoy, Krishnari Nichidas. You are Jivatma. You are the soul. You are spiritual energy. So Kapila's entire teaching is to make us understand that we are not the material energy. We're separate from the material energy. We are the Jivatma. We are soul. And that is, as we said, the Bhagavatam begins with that point. You must differentiate between matter and spirit. That is the point of the Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam is spoken categorically. It is spoken systematically. But before you get to the Samambona, or the Ashraya, or the ultimate goal, which is in the 10th canto, you must first understand the other things. So the Bhagavatam is spoken categorically to free us from our attachment to the material energy. So you must understand this. So Kapila's teachings in the 3rd canto, which is where we are now, this is the most systematic section of the Bhagavatam in terms of philosophical analysis of the difference between matter and the spirit. This is the deepest, most analytical part of the Bhagavatam, most philosophical part of the Bhagavatam, practically. The only part of the Bhagavatam which is as philosophically inclined as the 11th canto. Because the 11th canto is a summary. There's nothing new in the 11th canto which has not been spoken previously. But it's like a summary or a re-emphasis of everything. Just like when you write a book or you give a lecture. At the end of the lecture, at the end of the book, then you'll go over everything again, point by point. And you'll say, okay, this, and this. Remember this is very important. So you'll see in the Uddhava Gita, in the 11th canto, then it's very philosophical. And that's a re-summary of everything which is said. But if you go back through the other 9 cantos, before you get to the 10th canto, then this is the most philosophical part. This is the deepest analysis of the difference between matter and spirit. So Kapila goes extremely deeply. And it's for one point. There's only one reason why he gets into this. And I remember when we taught this, because now we're in the 10th canto, we're studying the Bhaktivedanta, but when we went through the Bhagavatam systematically over the years, the devotees, when we got to this point, they really wanted to speed things up. Because it's very philosophical. And unless you're a jnani, which most devotees are not, most of us are just common people. And we're not highly intellectual. And we're not deeply into jnana or knowledge. We just like to hear, pastimes, and we just like to hear, some philosophy and, 1 or 2 slokas from the Bhagavad Gita. That's about enough. Most devotees know. So when we got to this 3rd canto, particularly the Matajis, some of the Matajis said to me, can we speed this up? Or they said, can I come back in canto 4? When the pastimes begin again. Because it's very philosophical. If you're studying this very systematically, it's very philosophical. But it is also necessary, because Kapila is speaking like this because he's trying to get us to differentiate. That's the whole definition of Sankhya. Sankhya means analysis. We're meant to analyze the material energy and understand we are not the material energy. We are the soul, we are Krishna's eternal servant. And the Bhagavad Gita is only 700 verses. Right? That's a summary of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Right? The philosophy of the Bhagavatam is summarized in the Bhagavad Gita. Or if you say it the other way, the Bhagavad Gita is expanded upon by the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So the chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, verses 11 to 30, what do we call that section generally? No, we'll call that jnana. It's jnana, it's knowledge, basic knowledge. How does Krishna begin? Asochanam vasocastvam. Right? And all the famous verses there. Natveva aham, dehinosmi. So what is Krishna analyzing there? Right? While speaking learned words, right, actually you are speaking foolishly. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. And the next verse, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all of us. So Krishna is analyzing the difference between matter and spirit. And now the Bhagavatam is expanding upon that. So Kapila is going into a very deep analysis. So in this particular chapter, he's speaking to Devahuti. Devahuti is saying, please instruct me. Kadama has left. I didn't take advantage of his association. I don't want to miss out a second time. So sometimes in devotional service we make mistakes. Right? Devotees do that. And if you look back at your devotional life, sometimes you make mistakes. One mistake that we sometimes make is that we don't take enough advantage of advanced association. Sometimes we have an opportunity to associate with advanced devotees, but we don't take advantage of that. And then later on, we lament. We think, why was I so foolish? Why didn't I take advantage? Why wasn't I there for that class? My guru was there and I was off doing something else instead of being there. Or I had more opportunity to associate with advanced devotees, but I didn't take advantage of it. So sometimes we lament. So Devahuti is doing that. I just had a sage as a husband, a self-realized soul as a husband, a Paramahamsa, a very exalted devotee as a husband, and I didn't take advantage. So now he's gone, she's lamenting. So sometimes, not sometimes, but for everyone, for every devotee, at different points of your life, Krishna will take things away from you to wake you up, or to give you a nudge or a wake-up call or a reality check. Sometimes Krishna pulls the carpet out from under your feet, and then you stumble and fall. Does anyone here know what I'm talking about tonight? Okay. So sometimes it happens. Krishna will do that. So he's done this to Devahuti. He does this to every devotee, especially sadhakas. He even does it to the siddhas, to the pure devotees. But that's just to set an example for everyone else. How do they react when they go through difficulties? If you look at the whole Mahabharata, you look at the entire narration or all the pastimes of the Pandavas, it's only for one reason, right? Because they were eternal associates of Krishna. So there was nothing to teach them, really. But they were put into so much difficulty, far more difficulty than any of us will ever be able to experience, but only for one reason, just to teach all of us how to respond to difficulty in the material world. So Kapila Dev, now he's going to instruct Devahuti, because Devahuti is realizing that I missed my opportunity and now I'm not going to do it a second time. Right? So that's called second-class intelligence. Second-class intelligence means we make a mistake and then we realize from the mistake. What is first-class intelligence? We don't make a mistake. Right? We understand from the start of the opportunity that we have and we take advantage of it. Second class means Krishna has to smash us a bit. Third class means you get smashed repeatedly until you become second class. Third class just means Krishna just keeps hitting you, and then eventually you understand, okay, now this is what I should be doing. And then you raise your intelligence. So Devahuti, she's being instructed by Kapila. So she's praying to him. You are the supreme personality of Godhead. So if you look at the Sanskrit in this particular verse, it's very similar to a verse that we chant every day. Do you recognize them? Some of the words are the same. Om Gyan Timarandasya Genanjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So this verse is very similar. This is where that verse was written, I believe, by Rupa Goswami. So that verse is being extricated from the philosophy of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Everything that Goswamis write, any verses they, you can say, invent or write, it's all based on the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So the Bhagavatam is saying, I am blinded by ignorance. Om Agyana. And actually, if you read the Nectar of Devotion, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami says all of us are bound originally by avidya. Avidya means ignorance. Agyana or avidya. We don't know who we are anymore. All of us think we are someone else. Just like sometimes you get a knock on the head, you see in this world, people get hit on the head and they wake up and they think they're someone else. Or they can't remember who they actually are. So all of us are like that in the material world. We don't know who we are anymore. What do we call this in Sanskrit? There's many words that we can use. You know, agyan or avidya, or broadly speaking, we would say maya. Maya means that which is not. So at the moment we think we are something, but we are not that. And what happens when you think you are something you're not, and you act on that basis? You suffer. Because you think happiness is within the material body. If I want to be happy and enjoy, I will get the pleasure from the body. That is maya, that is illusion. But it's actually exactly the opposite. The body just causes suffering. And I was listening actually to a lecture the last few days in the morning, and the Swamiji, who I'm listening to, then he said, he was quoting one verse, and the verse was actually spoken by Srimati Radharani herself. And she said, what is the use of youth? It passes within 2 or 3 days. Radharani was lamenting like that. What is the use of my beauty, my youth? It all disappears so quickly. And of course her body is eternal and spiritual. But our body will, that's the fact. Youth just disappears. You have it one moment, and suddenly you wake up one morning and you're 50 years old. And it doesn't work anymore. You can't do what you used to do. Everything disappears. So that's the nature of the material world. So that's maya. Maya means I think I can enjoy. I think I will stay young. I think I will live forever. But actually everything will just be taken away very quickly. So that is the potency of the material energy. So, what is the remedy for avidya? So, the analysis is given just like if you're bitten by a snake. So that means you go into like a coma, or you go into a disease condition.
Delirium.
What's that?
Delirium.
Delirium. Yeah, you become delirious. Right? So you don't really know. So that's like us. We've been bitten by the snake of Maya, or the snake of illusion. And now we think, oh, I am something other than what I am. So then you need the cure. So you need the snake charmer. The snake charmer is the spiritual master, the guru. The spiritual masters will come. They know what to do with you. They know how to fix you by their instructions. So they will speak. They know mantra. And by speaking these mantras, it will cure you of your disease. And they can give you some medicine. And that medicine will extract the poison and it will make you healthy again. So you have to take guidance from the spiritual master. Om Agyan Timanandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We take instruction from the spiritual master and he will cure us of our disease. He will give you the mantra. Take this. Here is the Jagyapit. Now you're taking vow in front of fire, in front of Krishna, in front of the deity, in front of the Vaishnava, in front of Tulsi Devi. You're taking a vow. Now I want you to chant this mantra every day. Take this mantra. I want you to chant it. Lord Chaitanya, he went to Gaya and he met his spiritual master, Ishvara Puri. And Ishvara Puri said, here, take this mantra. And then Lord Chaitanya stayed up all night chanting the mantra. He could not stop chanting. And the next morning he came, and his guru said, what is your experience with the mantra? And he said, I don't know what you've given me, because tears will not stop falling from my eyes, and my body quivers when I chant this mantra. And it is like my tongue is possessed. It cannot stop chanting this mantra. What is it you gave me? What is this disease you've given me? Ishvara Puri said, I wish I also had this disease. I wish I also had what you have got. What you have taken from Maha Mantra is what everyone should be taking. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam says in the 2nd canto, if you chant the holy name of Krishna and tears do not come from your eyes, then your heart is steel framed. Bhagavatam says that. We all chant every day. We've been chanting for years. And how many tears came so far? Madhvacharya, one of the great gurus, Madhvacharya says, since we came to the material world, each of us, we have cried so many tears for Maya, all the girls you lost, all the boys you lost, all the dogs you lost, all the parrots you lost. I know one devotee, his pet parrot died. He said for 2 weeks he's crying. So we cry for everything. Madhvacharya says, since you came to the material world, all these lifetimes, you've cried so much, your tears could fill an ocean. You didn't cry one tear for Krishna. But Bhagavatam says that if you chant and no tears come, your heart is like steel framed. Means we didn't get the prima dana, or the goal of the chanting. The goal of the chanting is to chant with emotion, with feeling for Krishna. So that is what Lord Chaitanya was doing. So the Guru gives you mantra, and he gives you medicine. Medicine is prasad. Prasad has special effect. I know because I live in the forest, away from material civilization. And every day we take prasad. But when I come here, and I take, like last night I took prasad, which was offered to Radha Vallabha. Right? Even though I take prasad every day, like this, but when I take this prasad, there's something different. There's something different in the taste. The energy is something different. When Radha Vallabha tasted that prasad, something different takes place. So that is the medicine. The Guru gives you the medicine and the mantra. And basically, if you look at Prabhupada's movement, if you look at ISKCON, if you look at the Sankirtan movement, Prabhupada said it's basically those two things. Right? You take the mantra, you chant the mantra, and when you're tired, you take some prasad. And that's what Lord Chaitanya did. Right? When Lord Chaitanya came, that was the basic, that was the movement. Dance and chant, and when you're tired, okay, now we take some prasad. Right? And when you've got some energy, dance and chant. And that's basically what they did. You read Chaitanya Bhagavat, you read Chaitanya Charitamrita. Vakrishwara Pandit was one of Lord Chaitanya's intimate associates. Sometimes it said he would dance for 72 hours non-stop. And then it says that when Lord Chaitanya, sometimes he was dancing. If you go across the Jalangi in Mayapur to Godrumdweep, and you go up a little bit from Bhaktivedanta Thakur's house in Godrum, and you travel up a little bit further up the road, up towards Nishringapalli and those areas. And then you come to one place where the devotees are doing kirtan with Lord Chaitanya. And devotees were exhausted because they're just chanting and dancing for hours and hours and hours. And Lord Chaitanya looked and saw everyone was exhausted. And some devotees said, can we take some prasad? And Lord Chaitanya looked around. Someone gave him the pip, the seed from the mango. And he took the seed and he put it into the ground, and in front of everyone's eyes a tree grew. And it said the mangoes just manifested. It said the mangoes were so big that each mango would feed 12 men. And there was no skin and no pip. So then Lord Chaitanya took those mangoes and offered them to Krishna. And then he said, now everyone take prasad. So everyone took the mangoes, big mahotsav, big feast. Then everyone washed, and Lord Chaitanya said, now kirtan. And they all chanted again. So basically that's it. And if you look at Prabhupada's formula, when Prabhupada came to America in the start, basically that was it. There was kirtan. You just go down Tompkins Square Park, sit under a tree. If you go to Tompkins Square Park, did anyone go? Tompkins Square Park. If you go there, there's a plaque under the tree that says Hare Krishna tree. Right? It says this is where it began. Hare Krishna movement began in America right there, that spot. Not, I mean technically, Prabhupada was in 26th Avenue, but they say that is the place. And Prabhupada just sit there, Sunday afternoon. You seen the videos? Right? And Prabhupada just chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Same tune, 3 hours. You see Mukunda Maharaj behind him, playing on the drum, with his beads around his neck, and he still had his hair. And he was just playing on the drum, or they play flutes, all these things. And Prabhupada, just 3 hours. And then at the end, Brahmananda Prabhu would stand up, and he'd say, now everyone, you're invited to come back to our temple. Go back, and then you have prasad. So then, in the beginning, who was the cook for the Sunday feast? 1966. It was Prabhupada himself. Can you imagine taking prasad, cooked by Prabhupada? So Prabhupada would cook him that. Prabhupada would go and buy all the veggies and do all the bhoga, do the bhoga shopping, come back, right? Prepare the feast, cook the feast, give the lecture, lead the kirtan, serve the feast, and then clean up after all the hippies. That's how it all began. One time I was in Jagannath Puri with Umapati Prabhu, Umapati Swami, and he was one of Prabhupada's early disciples from 66, 26th Avenue. And we're taking prasad, and then I said to Maharaj, Maharaj, did you ever eat something cooked by Prabhupada? He said, yes. He said, in the early days it was Prabhupada. And I said, what was it like? And he said, it was not from this world. It was not from this world. Something cooked by Prabhupada himself. It's like nothing from this world. And then, one time, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he walked in 1968. They walked would have been Los Angeles or San Francisco. And after class, even in class, they went back to Prabhupada's apartment. Prabhupada was staying around the corner. So they went back to the apartment and they walked in, and there was some, I think it was Lagdu or Ladu, one of the two. And then Prabhupada made that and offered it to his deities, Radha Krishna. He turned around and he gave to Tamal Krishna Maharaj. He said, taste this. Tamal Krishna, he wasn't Maharaj then, but so he took the Ladu, and then Prabhupada said, what do you think? And Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was stunned. He said, it is not from this world. And Prabhupada said, actually, that is a recipe from Mother Yashoda. So Prabhupada was not from this world. This is how the movement began. It's simple. And when he started in 1966 in 22nd Avenue, Brahmananda Prabhu, Gargamuni Prabhu, they say that at the end of the program, 3 nights a week, he would have kirtan and class. People would come. And at the end, if there was no prasadam, he would just take an apple and he would cut the apple up and just offer that to Krishna, and then he would distribute that. But he said everyone must have prasadam. He said no program is complete without prasad. So that is the remedy. The Guru cures us through these two things. You have to take prasad and you have to take the mantra from the Guru. And if you take the mantra, you take the prasad under the Guru's instruction, you become purified. That's how you get out of ignorance, out of Maya. That's how you get out of the bodily concept of life. And it sounds simplistic, and it is actually simplistic. But the problem is we don't apply ourselves to the process properly. Right? Many devotees, they say, I've been doing this for so many years, and I still don't feel like I've advanced very much. Does anyone feel like that? Right? I've been doing this for so many years, and still I don't feel like I'm making a lot of advancement. So then that's only due to one reason, because we don't apply ourselves properly to the process. It means, okay, you're chanting, but you're not chanting properly. We see many devotees chanting, but it's not attentive chanting. And if you don't at least get onto the platform of attentive chanting, how are you going to advance to the higher levels? If you want to get to the high levels of chanting, where the tears come from the eyes and all of the ecstatic symptoms naturally manifest, that's not going to come unless you can at least chant properly. And are you honouring prasadam properly? Prasad has to be honoured properly. That's also a science. It's not that we just eat prasadam. When 1968, Prabhupada went to London, and Prabhupada installed the first large Radha Krishna deities in ISKCON. What were their names? Radha, London, Ishvara. And Prabhupada said they were his favourite deities in ISKCON. They were Prabhupada's favourite deities, even till the very end. He installed so many deities around the world, but London Ishvara were his favourite. One time he was in Mumbai, and the devotee, the pujari, Prabhupada was taking darshan of Bihari in Juhu. And the pujari said to Prabhupada, "Isn't Radha Bihari beautiful, Prabhupada?" And Prabhupada, he paused for a few moments. He said, "Radha London Ishvara are also very beautiful." So Prabhupada was thinking, even all those years, he hadn't even gone to see them so many times, but still, they were his favourite deities. So when they installed them, Prabhupada asked Tamal Krishna Maharaj to write a letter to all the guests. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj then he came to Prabhupada and he read the letter before it got posted out. And he'd written in the letter, he was just a new devotee. So he wrote in the letter, "Come and eat prasadam." And Prabhupada corrected him. He said, "No, you say honour prasadam. We never eat prasadam. We honour Krishna prasadam." So he changed it in the letter which was sent out. So Prabhupada, it's a science. Taking prasadam, I just said it then, I said the wrong thing. Right? So honouring prasadam, it's a science. We take prasadam every day, but are we taking it properly? Are we absorbed when we're taking the prasadam? You'll see there's footage or photos up there, Prabhupada taking up there. When Prabhupada took prasadam, it was a meditation. He was meditating. He understood these are Krishna's remnants. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya says, it is Krishna fal. It is, prasad is mixed with the saliva from Krishna's lips. When Lord Chaitanya would take prasad, he was tasting the saliva which is mixed from Krishna's lips. He said, this is what gives its taste and its potency. So this is the process. The process is simple, but you have to apply ourselves properly to the process. And then you make advancement very quickly. If you do not commit offences, you make advancement very quickly. If you commit offences, then Bahu Jamma Kadiyari Shvava. You can Bahu Jamma means okay, you can stay in this for another 37 lifetimes, no problem. You can come back here. The temple will still be here for the next 370 years. You can keep taking birth and 3,700 years. You keep coming back and keep doing service. But you may not transcend. We may not go back to the spiritual. That requires that we become offenceless. So it's a science. That's why every morning we say the 10 offences to the holy name. And then there's also Jiva Aparad. And there's also Vaishnava Aparad. And there's also Seva Aparad. There's many things we have to be careful of while you do your service. So, it is being described here by Devahuti. She says to Kapila in the next couple of verses, you are taking an axe to chop our material attachment, our attachment. And that literally, that is the meaning of the word sadhu. If someone is a sadhu, one translation of that word, and that Prabhupada would quote that translation, one who cuts. A sadhu is one who cuts your material attachment. Now, what is the sadhu's potency? The sadhu carries a sword of knowledge, or the axe, which is mentioned in the next verse. So what is the axe? Axe means it has two blades, or the sword has two sides it can cut. So when the sadhu cuts your attachments, he does that with jnana and vairagya. Means he has knowledge. Literally, that's the meaning of the word guru. Guru means heavy. Laghu means light in Sanskrit. Guru means heavy. What is the Guru heavy with? Knowledge. So he gives you, cuts you with knowledge. Hey, nonsense. Cuts through. Have you ever seen some footage with Govinda Swami? Hey, Badmush, hey. Cut his disciples, cut. I'm very ecstatic. Appreciated. Govinda Maharaj is very much appreciated by his godbrothers. Because people didn't necessarily always understand him when he was on the planet, but very exalted in consciousness. And many of his godbrothers say that he was very, very exalted in consciousness. Tamal Krishna Maharaj actually said, one of his last Vyasa Pujas, then Tamal Krishna, he was going through all his godbrothers, all their disciples were there. And he got to Govinda Maharaj, and he said, I personally consider him a liberated soul. Very powerful. So just cut. With knowledge. Hey! And cut you and put you on the right path with the right instruction, the transcendental law. That is the Guru's position. It cuts you with knowledge. And Vairagya. Because the Guru, or advanced devotees, sadhus, because they are detached. If you are detached, you have potency. No? If you're attached, like if I'm attached to the material energy, and then I say to you, hey, don't be attached. But then you look at me and you say, well, you're doing it. So then there's no potency in the word. But if you see this devotee is detached, right? Like the sannyasis are detached, that's why they're potent. They've actually developed vairagya, gyan, and when they cut with their words, it cuts through your false ego. And allows you to become removed from the material energy. They're like doing surgery on you, cutting you to remove your disease, to take you back to the spiritual. So that is why we need this advanced association. So Devahuti, right, she missed the opportunity with Kadama, but now she's saying, I'm not going to miss the opportunity with Kapila. This is my last chance. And we should also feel like that. We should feel, and I always say to devotees, my Guru Maharaj left the planet, right, in an untimely fashion. 56 years old and suddenly gone like that. So I always say to devotees, take every opportunity to get the association of your gurus. Because you don't know. Every time I go to Mayapur, the samadhi peak gets bigger. Right? Every time I go to Vrindavan, there are more samadhis are coming. Right? Everyone's going to pass away in the next 10, 20, 30 years. It won't be long, maybe another 30 years from now, there won't be any Prabhupada disciples left. So you take advantage now of the opportunity, and you get the association now. Right? And that will carry you for the rest of your existence in the material world. So we'll stop here and we'll see if there's any questions or comments on what we discussed. We'll take one more question. Any question?
Did anything happen for Devahuti to realise that she not taking advantage?
Well, she just spent thousands of years flying around the universe on a plane, an aerial mansion with her husband, trying to procreate and increase her family life. So then when he left, when he gave her a son and left, then she felt disappointed. She thought, I spent all that time with him, but I could have been associating with him in a much more meaningful way, or a much more spiritual way. So she felt like I lost the opportunity.
So she was left behind?
Yeah, she was left behind. Yeah. She didn't take full advantage. Any other question?
Can a son become a guru of his mother? Is this possible? Like here, Kapila become the guru of his mother, devotee virtually. So in this material, I'm not saying there's any examples. So why this is the difference?
Yeah, generally it doesn't mean diksha. That doesn't mean you become the diksha guru, generally. But it means that you give shiksha. Just like in Chaitanya Bhagavat, there are examples What was the example? There was one devotee who brought his father to devotional service. I can't hear. Raghunandan. Who was the father? Mukunda. Yeah, so Raghunandan, Lord Chaitanya said, he said, you've brought your father to devotional service, so therefore you're like the guru. So it doesn't mean you'll give initiation to your father, and your father will bow down before you and all those things. But it means that, you know, from a shiksha point of view, then you've become the shiksha guru, like that. Just like you see many of the devotees, you know, many of the devotees, they bring their parents to Krishna consciousness. So then you become like the Vatma Pradakshika guru, or the shiksha guru, or the parents, like that. So in that way, but you know, you won't give the parents initiation. Like that. I mean, you can't imagine your father coming in and bowing down the ground. It doesn't work. And in the Vedic system, like the father does not initiate the son. Right? You see, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, then he sent Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to Gaurkishodas Babaji Maharaj. He didn't initiate him because it's not the mood is not. You know, you don't always follow what your father says. Your hands up if you always follow what your father says. No one's put their hand up, so we don't always follow what their parents say. You know, your parents say one thing, you say like that, and then you go off. So you don't take initiation in the family. Any other questions?
Actually, you said we make mistakes, that we don't take the advantages of our spiritual master and other seniors. So what are the list for those advantages and benefits that we should have to take? Because as a neophyte, we don't know what benefit is. We just do services to them and just... Is there any list to take advantages?
To take advantage
of their associations when they are here presently?
Yeah, I mean, it means how we serve the spiritual master, or spiritual masters, or advanced Vaishnavas. The most important service that you can render to the spiritual masters is to hear the Bhagavatam from them. So that if the Guru is speaking, then you must make it your priority to be there and to hear the Bhagavatam. And then in terms of service and association, there's so many things you can do to serve. Serve the Bapu, serve the personal form. Yeah, so you bring water, you serve prasadam, you make arrangements, you clean the room. There's so many practical things you can do. So the basic premise is that you take as much advantage as you can. Tamal Krishna Maharaj told me, because he was, you know, he got a lot of association with Prabhupada, right? And then he told me one time, he said, the Vani is there, you know, we get the instruction, and he said to me one time, he said, Prabhupada emphasized the Vani over the Bapu. But then he said to me that all the Vani never replaced the Bapu, or the personal association with Prabhupada. There's something you get from the Bapu you cannot get from the Vani. Even though the Vani is more important, because you can't always get the Bapu. But it doesn't mean when the Bapu is there, when the advanced devotees come, it doesn't mean, well, oh, now I'll follow the instruction and I'll go out and not associate with them. You should get as much association as you can. That's the basic principle. And then details means how you serve them. There's so many ways to serve. Any other question?
I have one question. What should be our feelings towards prasad when we are eating it? Because in my mind sometimes when I'm eating, I'm also thinking that it will fill up my stomach and I'll be satisfied.
It just means you should honour it respectfully. It's Krishna's prasad, so it should be. There's a way to serve prasad. There's an etiquette in the way we serve it. There's an etiquette in the way we do it. There's an etiquette in the way we honour it. So it basically means be respectful and be conscientious when you're taking it, of what it is and how to treat it. Yeah. I've been in Jagannath Puri. In Jagannath Puri, sometimes the pandits will bring you Jagannath Prasad. So Jagannath Prasad is considered extremely powerful. And I've seen, you know, one of the pandits, he brought some prasad and he was putting the pots down, and then accidentally he brushed past the prasadam with his foot in the pot. And his foot touched the pot, and immediately he offered his obeisances. So in other words, he's respectful, he's conscientious, that this, Lord Chaitanya says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the prasad of Jagannath is non-different from Jagannath. So the way you treat the deity is the way you treat the deity's prasad. It's not different. That's the basic premise. So I mean, very careful about, you never leave prasadam on your plate. Sometimes you see devotees throwing. You have no right to throw the prasadam out. The Vedic culture, or the system, and there's like, you never see, prasadam left over on Prabhupada's plate, unless he was purposely leaving some remnants for his disciples. But otherwise, you never leave prasadam on your plate. Sometimes you see devotees they just throw it out. You can't. How can you throw it out? It's Krishna's prasad. You can't just throw it away. So the Vedic system is that you serve slowly and gradually. You put a little bit on your plate. You finish that. You're still hungry. Now you put a bit more on. Yeah. So that it needs to be set up properly. How the devotees serve and honour. So if we honour respectfully, then that's basically what it means. When you become advanced, then Lord Chaitanya's favourite prasad was what? What did Lord Chaitanya like the most? Sak. Sak means spinach. So there's all different types of spinach, all different types of sak. And Lord Chaitanya would honour. And then when he took one type of sak, his hairs would stand on end. When he took another type of sak, his body would tremble. When he took another type of sak, tears would come from his eyes. When he took another type of sak, he would perspire. So it was like different, just trying to think of the word.
Items?
No, not items. No, ecstatic emotions. It's called sattvic bhavs. That means the different emotions or different spiritual reactions would take place when Lord Chaitanya would take different types of sak. This one would give this type of ecstatic symptom, that one would give that type of symptom. So actually that's the way we should be taking prasad. But obviously we're not purified enough yet. We're not on that level. So at least be respectful and do it properly. Don't waste it. Serve it properly. Honour it in all different ways. There's a culture to taking prasad. Prabhupada actually taught us the culture of how to honour prasad, how to serve it, how to honour it, all the different things, how to treat this prasad respectfully, all those things. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki?